Good morning, channel friends. Franco. So today we're in a restaurant, my father-in-law's restaurant, and I'm here because this tutorial is extremely important. These are guidelines I've been wanting to share with you for years. For what kind of restyling? Those on tables, highware restyling of already painted furniture, already painted with magic paint or other paints. Things that have become damaged over time or things you simply want to repaint. So today I'm going to show you how to do highware restyling for surfaces that will undergo very heavy use. This is the ultimate test because we're talking about tables without tablecloths, exposed to frequent cleaning and daily use, and often washed with very aggressive detergents. I'll show you everything you should do and everything you shouldn't do. So, let's get started because it will be really lovely. Let's start. These tables were painted by me and my girls, well, almost 6 years ago now, because it was summer, July 2019. We decided to go with this choice of painting them because underneath they were glossy and plastic and looked a bit ugly, but we wanted to completely get rid of using tablecloths. We wanted to go for something more easy, lighter, cheaper, and more environmentally friendly. And so, 6 years ago, we made this decision. These are tables that have undergone years and years of very aggressive cleaning because unfortunately during the COVID era they were cleaned with very harsh agents. Strong, powerful degreasers, often with alcohol. Something you should avoid is using surfactants or degreasers that contain alcohol on painted or new furniture. It ruins the look, color, causes peeling, and removes paint, a complete disaster. It even makes surfaces sticky. In reality, these tables have seen it all. Unfortunately, Fedele has been telling me, Eliza, look, with the banging and scrubbing and after weakening the paint. With these very strong detergents, they've become a bit damaged in some spots. But I invite you to take a good look, because these are tables that were painted 6 years ago. Look here, tables that have been used for lunch and dinner, even 3 to 4 times at lunch and 3 to 4 times at dinner every day. For 6 years. And this is their current condition. What does that mean? It means that the paint has held up really well, but, as with all things, sometimes when you use them improperly, scrubbing, banging, it's time to redo it. What do we do? First of all, we need to make sure it doesn't flake off. What does that mean? That, when you run the sponge over it, what's meant to stay in place stays, and what's meant to come off, comes off. And here, this is what happens. What happens is that when you go over it, it's simply a bit of ugly wear, but nothing flakes off. So, if it doesn't flake, if no bits, no layers, no crusts of old paint come off, then we're good to go. Because the only thing we'll need to do is an R-bar, done properly, maybe even twice, with a good rinse, done thoroughly, and then dried. And then we can start again with the new technique. Actually, the most important thing here is to understand that nothing is flaking off, and we need to make sure the new techniques are still, let's say, nice and strong. I'll repeat the same steps I did years ago, so I'll recreate a concrete effect on these tables just like I did back then. Maybe I'll change the colors a bit darker, lighter, I don't know it yet. We'll see what I come up with. The important thing is to understand that today I'm not stripping paint, I'm not sanding, because nothing is peeling off. If one day you want to do what I'm doing today, and you have furniture, tables, or things where the old paint or enamel is flaking off, then there's no way around it. You'll need to either strip the paint or sand it down, removing the loose bits with a scraper. Obviously, be careful, because when these chunks of paint come off, they leave grooves behind, and those will be visible. So watch out, because there aren't many alternatives. If it's like this, with gentle wear that doesn't come off, you can carry on and repeat the process. Otherwise, you'll need to strip or sand it down, alright? So now I'm starting with our bar. A strong one. I've actually already done it on all the other tables. I kept 2 tables, this and that, to show you all the techniques and to show you how to do our bar. Here we add roughly a glass of ammonia, or a bit more, if you like. Since we're dealing with something that will really get a lot of wear, it needs to be degreased very well. Add 3 or 4 tablespoons of baking soda. This, actually together with ABA, really helps too. Let's say, bring all the degreasing and surfactant agents on the surface, making it truly clean. It's almost abrasive. We call it almost abrasive. Let's move my basin of our bar over here. And now, what you mustn't be afraid to do is scrub. All right, because stains and greasiness, for example, in a restaurant, no matter how well you clean the corners, so the areas that are more exposed to the wear from hands are like this one. We put things on our hands, we apply cream, touch everything, and those are the agents that end up damaging the surface most. Here too. This job really needs to be done with some elbow grease, so you scrub, you scratch, you persist so that the surface is truly degreased. So guys, we're dealing with tables that are a good 6 years old, 6 years of color build-up, and this is the result. Actually, a lot of people ask me sometimes, how do you create this worn effect? This is actually a genuinely worn effect, but many people, let's say, they've come to love it. They even love the damaged look after it's been painted. Now I'm scrubbing thoroughly. I apologize if I bore you with our bar, but experienced ones know it's important. First-time viewers don't know it, so I insist on showing how our bar is done 100%. Once the R-bar sponge is set down, you take a clean microfiber cloth, clean water, always warm, wring out the cloth and rinse. Rinse thoroughly, if you need it. If you need to degrease more before rinsing, do it again, but change the water. Redo our bar, so recreate the magic potion and do it again. Now you have 2 options. Dry the table with paper or air dry it. When we start with the next techniques, it must be dry. Let's start with the magic potion for the base. What is it? Color, dark sand. I already know that for all these tables I'll use 1 can, also because I need to apply 2 coats. So I take an entire 500 milliliters jar and pour it into my tray. Because today I'm going to show you how to create a really textured base using a roller and a brush. So actually it's really cool and also very quick. I pour it all out properly, drain it well. Look, I am at my father-in-law's restaurant and there was an old spatula and I said, this is mine now and I'll use it for paints. It's a tool that really solves the problem. Quickly, you can clean out the can properly, really clean it out well and avoid any kind of waste. There we go. Look, and voila. Then we add 3 tablespoons of magic star powder, not too full, just normal ones. 1, 2, 3. And then we add 3 teaspoons of protective coating. You might ask, why add the protective coating? Does it make more rigid and resistant? No, magic paint doesn't get scratched if you apply it and dry it well. It adheres and lasts for years. The protective coating helps the roller glide. It makes the paint viscous, so it spreads better and eases work. Here we go. 1, 2, and 3. All right. So, remember, this isn't a step we do to make magic paint stronger. It's not necessary. It's a step we take simply to help this new alternative I'm giving to create a textured surface using the roller. Always remember that if you don't want the Magic Star magic powder to spread around too much, you can also simply take the can opener or a stick, whatever you prefer, and make these upward movements. This helps it blend in better. I've got everything ready to work at my best with my Black King brush and my new medium bristle roller. You know that I have it long, I have it short, and I have it medium. This one is the medium one. The microfiber bristles are important, and in this case, I wanted to highlight the name in a fun way so at least you won't forget it. When should you use one, the other, or the other one? Actually, it's something that really depends a lot on personal preference. I personally find it great to use the long and medium ones, especially when I'm working on surfaces that are either very rough, highly absorbent, or extremely large and long, because they hold more paint and therefore release it more slowly. It creates a self-leveling effect and doesn't leave marks. But today I find it really good to use the medium one, or I could even use the shorter one, because they create a textured surface. Especially if you apply powder, like in this case. In my opinion, they need to be tested, because you'll realize through your own feeling, by trying all three, that when the surface changes, you already have the bristles that automatically help you achieve either a rough surface or a super smooth, super neutral one, depending on how you load it and how you use it. They're three incredible allies. While chatting, I've managed to get my paint perfectly blended in. See? There's practically nothing left, and this is the texture the paint should have by the time I finish. So, a creamy mousse. I'll show you the steps to create a textured surface with a roller on this table, from start to finish with the first coat, then I'll do another one. Watch closely, I'll show you how to load the roller and how to apply the paint. You ask me a lot about it. So, roller with medium nap, already used and washed. I wash it in the washing machine. When I do a load of cleaning cloths, I also throw in my rollers, obviously after rinsing them first, and I put them in the washing machine. Those cloths come out perfectly, nice and soft. I load it like this, I go down, but the paint doesn't really get fully absorbed because it's very thick. So what I need to do to get it to absorb a bit more is this, stroke it. And do this step. Can you hear the sound? That. Now, with the roller, in this case quite full, you can hear it. You can also tell whether it's full or not by the weight. You'll notice that the more you load it, the more paint it absorbs, and the heavier it gets. I'm going to do this application, quite rough because you can do a rough roll just like a rough brush stroke. And you need to spread the paint like this. If in some spots you've applied a bit too much, you can move it around afterwards, alright? When it's like this, when there's nothing left to give, see, like this, don't keep going. This is the mistake you make most often when you tell me you're no good with the roller. Because when you get to this point here, like this, when it's not giving anything anymore, you keep pressing and pressing and no. You mustn't press when the roller has nothing left to give, that's it. Whether you're using the textured powder or not, you don't do it. You reload it. You take a bit more and start again. With this effect. So I load it, bring the paint up here and make sure the paint gets absorbed like this. And then I go back. That's what I need to do, spread it. Continuing from where I started before, I widen out and try to nicely cover my surface. This is something you need to get into your head. The roller works if you know how to use it properly, if you listen. Right, I've still got a bit left to apply here. It's not completely empty yet. Okay, so I'll keep using it. But if when I do this, it starts to look patchy, that's it. I need to stop here and reload it. And I go back to the tray and reload it like this. This is a fully loaded roller. I come back here and carry on. You see how it's obviously wet the moment you start? And you can easily go over it again, move around and fill in, get rid of the gaps where, in fact, there's still mum. Look, here too. Remember something else, if it's really hot, be careful. Because when you go in with the brush to do the moldings, which I'll show you, it might no longer be very wet. So please take care. Make sure you do this job at a time when it's not too hot. Okay, now I'm going a bit quicker because I don't want to risk the heat causing the paint to dry out. But watch this step very carefully, because it's crucial. I load it up. And I go to the corners. Corners are really important, because unfortunately, with tables like this, if you have a bar or a restaurant, you often end up having to push them together to make long tables, and they get chipped. So actually, you need to pay even more attention to do a good job on the edge, like I'm doing here now, and especially on the corner. The first coat really needs to stick. You have to make the paint really adhesive to the surface. The paint must adhere perfectly to the surface. Alright, you see how I'm pressing down? I'm continuing to make everything stick properly. I'm quickly getting over here too, because I don't want the paint to dry too much. I keep pressing, making sure the roller works well, even in the corners. And now this step is important. It needs to be done straight away with the king brush. I dip the king brush lightly into the paint. I never go onto a surface with a dry brush, or I'll remove everything, and now I do this. I gently lift the paint, which is obviously drying, so I don't press too hard. It should be more like a soft stroke. This step will help me achieve a more modern stone effect. It's a really nice effect, because later on, when we do the washes, they'll blend into it. Look. It's very quick to do and, more importantly, it's even quicker because having rolled it beforehand, we no longer have any issues. I also gently go over the edges without removing any paint, of course. In fact, just to maintain the continuity of the brushstroke, and that's it. I'll do this step twice, so once the first coat is done and applied, I'll add a second one to enhance the structure of the base. And then we'll move on to the other steps, which will be really quick and easy. So, if you want to replicate this, I assure you that a bar counter, a restaurant surface, or tables can last for many years. If you clean them with care and avoid using harsh products, they'll last longer than hours. Second coat again textured. Just like before, remember, it's not strictly necessary to apply it with both a roller and a brush. It's entirely up to you, whatever you prefer. In fact, the coverage here is really exceptional, and if you like it, you could even consider keeping this rough texture and just leaving the roller's stippled finish. Actually, it's quite nice that you can still see the brush strokes from the first coat underneath. As you can see, it really helps. And of course, we're not strictly bound to do two textured layers like before, with brush and roller. Now I'm going to start. I'll see how it turns out and decide if I'll brush it. In these cases, I always go step by step. I make sure to finish the top part properly, even here, before doing the edges. Maybe I'll go over it a bit with the brush and see if I like it. It's still very wet. Yeah. In a way, I love the brush stroke here too, so I'm doing it. So look here as well, I go over it a bit with the brush in a very uneven way and gently lift the base paint. The next step is crucial because I absolutely want the surface to be completely dry and protected before doing the antiquing wash. So what do? Now, as soon as it's dry, I immediately apply a nice coat of protective coating. To protect this textured base before doing the wash, so I need to dry it thoroughly, apply the protective coating, and then move on to the color effects. It's time to apply the protective coating because I'm going to perfectly seal the two textured layers of dark sand laid underneath. This protective layer will also help the antiquing color wash glide on more smoothly, which will create the concrete effect I'll be adding later. So I take my roller. I have now assembled the long-haired roller. Because, since the surface is rough, it holds onto the protective coating even more, and it spreads it out in a completely self-leveling way. It won't be visible, so I don't lose the texture. On the contrary, I enhance it, but you won't see the roller marks of the protective coating. So nice and full roller. I recommend starting from the center and work your way out to the sides. Earlier, Emma and I were talking and we said to each other, how did we manage to live all these years without these rollers? It's true, because they've taken such a load off our shoulders. In a way, that's just unbelievable. Look, I only loaded it once. Now I'm doing a crossed roll so it self-levels even better. Obviously, the roller is quite heavy because it was nicely loaded, but it doesn't drip. The protective coating is not dripping. And now that the roller is less loaded, you can see it's a bit lighter. Most of the protective has gone onto the horizontal surface. I'm going to do the edges. This way it doesn't drip, it doesn't run, but even the edges are perfectly protected. It becomes a perfect membrane because the amount of protective coating I'm applying to the surface is significant. Here too, of course, I reinforce the corner more, and here as well. Now I'll let it dry properly. Maybe in the meantime we'll grab a bite to eat because we're starving. And in the meantime, an hour will pass. We'll leave the doors wide open. It's a lovely day, the sun's out, it's spring. Letting the air circulate will help the protective coat to dry properly, because then there's the antiquing wash, and you can't do the wash if the base isn't completely dry. Ready for the antiquing wash. In a small tray, I pour London Fumé, as much as I like, at your own discretion. I use quite a bit, because I like the dominant, cool tone. And vintage, my chocolate brown. Here too, I add quite a bit. Can you see it's a little thicker? It'll help warm things up a bit and give it more of a vintage feel. I mix it with a brush, and I use the brush because it lets me scrape the bottom well with the bristles, and I really understand if I like the color. And then I add water. Always remember this. The purer the wash, the less water there is, the more it stains. The more diluted the wash, the more water there is, the less it stains. Of course, if it's too watery, it runs and makes a mess all over the place, so it's always best to mix according to our needs. Now I'll add about 50% water, meaning that for every part of color, there's now an equal part of water, and stir well. Because as you can see, it's mixed. Half solid and half liquid due to the water. But what we actually want is a swampy puddle of color. I know it doesn't sound great when put like that, but I can assure you that very soon, when you see the shading we get out of it, it'll be amazing. Make sure to stir and mix it well, because if the wash separates after a while, it won't stain properly anymore and you'll end up with uneven shading. So you need to remember to occasionally go in like I'm doing now, scraping a bit. Scraping the bottom with the bristles, this is really important, otherwise you'll end up with 10 different shades coming out. You see, every now and then, every 4 or 5 minutes, give it a stir with the brush. Today I'm also using a roller. My paint is really well mixed, it's quite liquid and velvety, and now I'm starting the application. If you like, today you can copy this technique I'm using and go with the roller, which will make the job much easier for you. With the roller, you still need to be quick, just like you would be with a brush. I need to be really quick in spreading the paint quite unevenly across the whole surface. Here we go. Very, very quick. And even quicker when doing the edges. Have a damp, wrung-out microfiber cloth ready. And also some paper, because the microfiber cloth alone isn't enough, so that you are faster when you go to do the work. Here we go. Obviously, having applied a coat of protective coating underneath makes things easier when doing this step. But it's still better to be quick, as I was just saying. Microfiber cloth on the shorter side and we massage it in. Mine won't all turn out the same, I'm sure of that with these tables, but that's the beauty of it. Stones aren't all the same. I gently go over the sides and edges as well. Now I go over it with the paper, quickly massaging the surface, bringing out the stone effect. It's really important to do this with flat, smooth paper, so there aren't too many grooves causing issues. And by gently stroking this surface, all the texture underneath created with dark sand will come through naturally. It's very easy. You can do it on the edges too. Everywhere. And now, after a quick blast with the hairdryer, you can use the sponge to smooth surfaces. Go on, Emma, dry it. Now the surface is dry, and with a sponge to smooth surfaces, I gently do this. It will help me to lighten the color in certain areas, bringing out even more the base color and creating a perfect texture. Let's remove all the dust, always using a microfiber cloth, and off we go. Use the clean side of the cloth and wipe away the dust. And voila, this is the finished result. I didn't go over the edges with the sponge to smooth surfaces because I don't want to remove any product. I want to keep it darker. But this is the top part. Now I'll continue with the other tables. The surface is completely dry, and we're already starting to protect it. Remember that every time you protect with waxes or protective coatings, the color changes slightly. It means it darkens a little bit. Now you'll see that it becomes more toned, more vibrant, slightly darker. I love the result. This one is darker than the others, and some are darker, as stone varies. Now I will apply the satin protective coating as a final coat. I'll apply 2 coats of protection, as I mentioned, since these tables go through a lot of daily cleaning. So, I'm using a long-haired roller because it holds more product, more protective coating, and it spreads in an even more self-leveling way. I'm starting from the center again, and as you can see, the color tone changes subtly. Something important, if you have very rough surfaces, make sure to always apply it using a crossed roll. This is essential, just as you can see here. I've just gone vertically, and now I'm doing the final stroke horizontally. Don't do this step with sponge rollers or short pile rollers, because you'll end up removing too much. This crossed application works perfectly with a long pile roller because it holds more product, releases it more slowly, and allows it to self-level without leaving marks. The trick to never having surfaces with roller marks is exactly what I've just told you. Always work with the roller nicely loaded. Be gentle. Never press the roller onto the surface. Never, ever, ever. But above all, use the right rollers for the right treatments, for the right steps. This is a coat applied with the roller, nicely loaded, nice and full, and it's completely self-leveled. Now I'll wait for it to dry properly, really well, but it's very hot here, and now the sun is shining on it too, so it will dry really quickly. It will dry quickly to the touch, not eye deep, but once it's dry. I can apply a second coat. I apply 2 since these tables are often cleaned. They get a lot of wear and tear, so applying 2 coats, plus the one underneath, makes 3 layers of protection, which is a lot. These tables won't need to see me again for at least 5 years. I'll go on.
The first coat of protective coating is completely dry, so I take my tray again with the protective diluted by 10%, roller, nicely loaded, and I apply a second coat. Just like the first coat, a thin, even layer with crossed roller. I do this on all tables.
This restyling
is finished too. I was prepared.
Stefano came to eat here with me, and we wanted to show you how these tables have been finished. So, actually, how many days have passed since I did this restyling? About 2 weeks. I'm happy we saved many tables, meaning I didn't have to strip or sand them down, but I came back on them. After 5 years, 5.5 years, with the same technique. And now Franco will pay attention and show you the other tables that are set. Why? Because you need to understand this table lacks a tablecloth. These tables are set using paper covers. That was partly the reason why we made the tables this way, so they'd still look nice even in a slightly more casual setting with just a paper cover. But it also means that wear and tear is greater because they're constantly being scraped. Some cheeky ones sometimes carve into them with knives, that sort of thing. It's not ideal, they like to mess about, but we keep an eye on them and stick to the rules. Still, on some tables I had to redo, I noticed there were knife carvings, someone had scratched them, maybe in a small spot, and after a year it came unglued and they kept scratching at it. So, in reality, this sort of thing happens in public venues. 2 things to point out. If you also make tables for public venues, know you definitely have to disinfect between one setting and the next. I know you likely use alcohol-based surfactants. Alcohol isn't good for paint. It's better for you to use surfactants without an alcohol base. There will be some medical-grade products. That's what it's called, the standard detergent I used on these tables. But if you read the label, you'll see it also says to rinse them. So I'm saying this for your sake and for your health, whatever you're doing. Whether you're doing this restyling on your kitchen worktop, your kitchen table, or a restaurant table, you must always be careful to rinse it after cleaning, for 2 reasons. First, because over time, you spray and wipe, and the detergent stays there. You touch it, then touch your face, often bring your hands to your mouth, and that detergent ends up in your body through your mouth. So it's a cross-contamination that you're causing to your own body. So you need to be careful. When doing this kind of cleaning, you should always rinse afterwards. First point. Second point, the surfactant really weakens it. What does that mean? It means it holds up well for 6 months, a year, then the paint starts to deteriorate. Because if you never remove the detergent, it weakens it. So remember, all furniture can be cleaned once it's been protected with a protective coating, but it must also be rinsed. So if you have a restaurant or a bar and during service you spray and wipe down quickly with a sponge at the end of service, before resetting for dinner or lunch, always make sure to rinse these tables thoroughly, because detergent should never be brought to the mouth. Anything you'd like to add?
No, they're beautiful.
Like they were 5 years ago.
Now they're more beautiful.
In 5 years, will we do them?
Yes, you did better, you've improved in the meantime. So let's say goodbye, and tell them where they can find our products, on the only Italian website that sells them, which is called elisa&MagicPaint, and if they want a good retailer to give them advice, where should they look? Go to the magicpaint.it website, and they are divided by region and by province.
You have done your homework, but tell us about.
It's like I did it.
Just imagine, soon there will be a new website that brings all the sites together to find everything in one place. That's a spoiler. It's a huge spoiler, but since people are stressed out by online searches, I want to make things easier. In June, hopefully, if all goes well, a really cool website will launch, where exactly there won't be separate sites anymore. Magic Paint and Elisa Home, they will be grouped together, so you can go there to find your trusted seller or to buy some product. We've always had a guarantee. We'll never be on Amazon, neither now nor in 10 years. Goodbye.